This is the opening of the regularly scheduled March 11th, 2024 Norton Conservation Commission meeting. And as with all of our prior recent meetings, we're obligated to read the preamble concerning that this is being conducted remotely. So,
pursuant to Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 bill extending several COVID-era policies and programs by allowing virtual meetings to continue from March 31st, 2023 to March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing *9 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Norton Cable website, www.nortonmediacenter.org, an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you, Dan. Commission members participating tonight are myself, Julian Kadish, Chair. We have Tom Best, Paxton Hassel, and Mark Fernandez. We have John Thomas, our director. He's not participating tonight. John?
Yeah, she's out sick tonight.
Okay, all right. So our first, we have no new public hearings. Our first item on the agenda, continued public hearing for file number 250-1129, and along with that, 250-1130. These are adjacent lots of effectively the same project, Lot C and Lot D. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
You have two representatives, Jack Jacoby, the attorney, 144 Bank Street, Attleboro, and Dan Campbell from Level Design, and Dan's going to be making the presentation.
All right. Dan, I think you're on.
Good evening, Daniel Campbell, Level Design Group, on behalf of the applicant. We received our most recent set of comments, which were minor in nature, last week on Friday, I believe. And those comments had to do, the submitted site plans, those comments had to do with this area and the top of this wall specifically, and how the grading flow to the abutting neighbor. And we will respond to the comments, but I just wanted the commission to know our plans is to utilize some grass swales in that area to direct stormwater from the top of the wall. This is the start of a draft. We're going to do the same thing on the other side, swaling water down off the wall towards a small grass depression or grass swale in the side yard prior to discharge. And then we're making a modification to the stormwater line. Instead of the stormwater line daylighting, that stormwater line is going to go to the basin for greater TSS removal, making all of our treatment trains compliant as requested by your review engineer at Horsley Witten. Out of the commentary that we had, I believe we've got 4 outstanding comments. They all relate to, I believe 3 of them relate to that area at the top of the wall, and one of them relates to the TSS removal, both of which can be rectified by the same thing, by that movement of the drain line, as well as the modification of the overall swale at the top of that wall. Otherwise, the comments on the site as a whole have been addressed. As you'll note, from the first public hearing to this one, there have been very minor modifications to the way the site looks, the way the site is graded, and the way the site functions. What the questions or commentary have been about is better clarification for construction documents, what the outlet structure looks like, how the outlet structure functions, providing a detail for the structure itself, not on the piping or the transport of water, but how it discharges that area on the side, for instance. So the site primarily looks like it did during the very first public hearing that we had on the project. What we've been doing is a lot of paperwork cleanup, and we do appreciate Horsley Witten. Quick review on this last go round. I think we handed in right before the previous public hearing, and they did get it back to us last Thursday or Friday. And I think we're going to turn it around tomorrow morning with some of this commentary having to do with that small graded swale area, as well as swaling the water off the top of that wall with the TSS sheets that they requested.
Are you open for questions?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair.
So nothing further specific, so we can go into the question now. I'm going to be echoing Lisa here. On this plan, as illustrated on my screen, the boundary to the left, where is your property boundary?
So the property boundary
of Lot C, for example.
Correct. So the property boundary is this boundary here for Lot C.
Maybe you could enlarge it again a little.
Sure. Let me.
Because I can't really see the mouse flying around there at that magnification.
So hopefully you can see the red line on the sheet. That's our property boundary on the three sides, not on the side with the roadway.
All right, I'm still seeing the old plan. It's taking a while to refresh, I guess.
Okay. Hopefully it comes up for you in a minute.
There we go. So, okay. Yeah, it just came up for me. So that's the property boundary.
Sure.
And it's been a frequent discussion. So you have the two walls there, unless I'm, you have top of a wall. And how close are you to the property boundary with the bottom of that wall?
We are approximately 1.5 to 2 feet away from the property boundary with the bottom of that wall. The front wall is the closer of the two. The front wall is approximately 2 to 3 feet tall, depending on where you are. It's 3 feet at its highest point. It is 2 feet for the remainder, and it does climb down with the grade. So it's a fairly short wall. It's actually only going to take one set of blocks to be able to make that wall.
Okay, so this is kind of out of our terrain, but there isn't any required setback from the property boundary for that kind of structure?
There's not.
No.
So
zoning, excuse me, I was going to say zoning regulates buildings and their distance from the sideline, not accessory structures like this.
All right. And so the corner of that building, I mean, I can't really tell, but presumably that was a focus of zoning and planning, is to how close the corner of that building is to the property boundary?
Correct. We'll be back at the planning board tomorrow evening, although we more than meet, in fact, exceed the zoning setback on that building.
All right. Either comments from John or any questions from members of the commission? Anybody want to comment?
So, Dan, did you make any provisions for snow storage locations? I may have missed them.
So we did. It was a request of Horsley Witten, but we had included it in our layout material sheet. So on our full site plan set, I apologize. Like I said, that other one is the modifications that we made today based upon her comments. So on our layout material sheet, we have snow storage adjacent to the end of the parking lot, the islands adjacent to the parking lot, adjacent to the parking spaces near the dumpster, in between the garage and building on Lot C, and at the end of the Lot D site as well. So scattered throughout the site, primarily not in the central islands because we have landscaping in those areas, but primarily behind the sidewalk to give good places to pile and push snow. It is the other reason that we left some of that central portion of the site open for greater storage, and put the yard drains in that area so that it goes through treatment.
Is this section of 140 under the jurisdiction of MassDOT?
It is.
So you get an access permit from them and they've approved the design, the stormwater management?
So we've submitted them for an access permit. Until we have planning board approval in hand, they won't grant it.
Yeah.
As you know, we can get to the 75% set of drawings. And we have to then submit our approval through the planning board. From a drainage standpoint, they're satisfied with the drainage along the roadway as we stand.
Okay, and then I have a last question. You can go back to the layout plan with the wall and the elevation. So theoretically, you're going to have 48 units with 0 open space and backyard. And I think it's part of our mission here is to make sure that people don't interfere or intrude into what is left over, which is basically the wetland. So
I understand, and that was a question of yours when we first started. So we created an area, we pushed the buildings further apart, and we created an area that was not only blocked from the street between the garage and the fencing around the dumpster, that is on top of this subsurface drain system. So instead of having an above ground basin, we wanted to create an area where the persons who live there could either congregate, could play with their dog, could throw a Frisbee or what have you. The distance, between these two areas is a few hundred feet. So they do have quite a bit of area in between those two structures.
okay, I think where I was going was with intrusion into the wetland. So that said, John Thomas, typically you're not going to have something on top of a wall. So the question is, will the wall itself act as a barrier? How high is that wall? You can run us through from where the outlet is. Looks like it starts there. Yeah.
So the wall starts in this location as it comes up grade 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot. On the back side of the wall, it is also climbing. So we're around 1 foot tall in this location. We're around 4 feet tall in this location. We're back down to 1 foot tall in this location. The highest points are here and here. As you're coming around the site, you're about 7 3/4 feet tall here, about 7 3/4 feet tall here, and you're climbing back down to approximately 1 foot tall behind the building. Again, at the corner of the building, you're approximately 7 feet tall. As we come around the side, we're about 1 foot tall again. So in the back of the site, the wall itself is really a delineation or a buffer, except for those couple of small or taller areas that we are utilizing in this area for the corner of the building, but we're also utilizing it to hold that green space.
So if I can, in other towns that I have done work in, they've required us to post a sign periodically along the top of the wall that says something to the effect of environmentally sensitive area, do not enter. If the commission was looking for us to post some periodic signs, I don't think we'd have any objection to that.
Well, I think that would be helpful. One, from a perspective of a unit renter not trying to, go down there. And then number two, they're going to probably have a landscape company. We don't want any leaves dumped over there or any lawn clippings. So I personally think that would be beneficial.
So would it be beneficial that the signs not only told you what it was, being a buffer, but to preclude dumping as well? Yeah, because you're right, they're definitely going to have a landscape company. Usually they take it away, but certainly if dumping is a concern, we should include that on the sign.
Yeah, I'll leave it to you and John to work out the wording, but something that will prevent them from basically intruding past that top of wall and then dumping anything in the future. Because as we all know, that the word usually doesn't get to the landscape company because it's fourth hand by then.
I'm happy to put signs as Attorney Jacoby alluded to.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from members of the commission? Or John, do you have any comments? I mean, are we the stormwater peer review is not complete? Is that correct? I gather
They've got some minor adjustments to do based on my understanding and my review of the report and the correspondence that's been going back between Dan and our peer reviewer. But I would say that, I can start drafting up a draft order of the projects as such, alluding to the, witnessed visual barrier posts being put in. We do have placards, obviously, that we typically use, but to the kind of Mr. Jacoby and also Dan's suggestion is that, having additional signage that says no dumping, I think that would alleviate a lot of the potential issues we'd see with the apartment buildings being there. So, I can draft something up in the interim, but I would basically look for a continuance tonight for the next meeting and then potentially have a closure and issuance at the next meeting if that's what the commission chooses to do.
And that would also allow us to
I think
planning tomorrow night to make sure that they had no adjustments that they were looking for. So it would make sense that we go over for 2 weeks.
Mr. Chairman,
yeah, and before we consider a motion to continue, though, not quite yet. We have to open up the questions to the whole audience, just in case there's some people that want to ask specifically about this. And you can do that either by going to the reactions button and pressing the raise hand, or just putting your mic off mute and asking your question. But unless we have any questions, I think we've covered everything and can continue. Coming up in 2 weeks on the 25th of March. So seeing no questions, we can go for a continuation.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to.
Looks like we have a question from Mr. Rotundi.
Okay.
Yeah, just so we'll hold up on the motion and a computer labeled Bill Rotundi. You can go ahead and answer and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
We can hear you.
Just kind of a follow-up to the whole wall thing. I'm not going to say anything about what people do or don't do, but I got to tell you, if I saw a 1 foot wall, I'm hopping it. I don't care what the sign says. Who's going to catch me? What's going to happen to me? So if we're really concerned about keeping the wetlands kind of safe, then I don't think a 1 foot wall does that. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I will say that also, I think a perpetual condition is going to be put in place with this order of conditions that request that much. And And if there is a violation and continued violations of it occurring, then for instance, we're going to associate fines with the apartment complex, and they're going to have to pay them because it's a condition within the order conditions, and it's going to be perpetual. So that's how we'll keep up with it. So that's basically what we can do for this.
John, is it worth exploring perhaps putting up sections of fence where it's not as
I think that's, to start putting in the posts, but then also saying that if it becomes more problematic, a more permanent barrier is going to have to be installed. So it's actually the benefit for the developer and also the residents to ensure that they don't do these sort of activities, because it's going to end up being them that's going to pay for it, and it's not cheap.
Right, and that's why I think we have a better shot at getting that fence installed while the developer is here versus waiting for it to happen and then asking homeowners to bear that burden.
So, well,
I agree.
There's no homeowners at this location. It's an
all right.
apartment complex.
Okay,
And
so
the
it's going to be professionally managed.
It
Okay.
is, and the apartment
Right.
complex is going to be managed out of their location in Plainville, the Oasis at Plainville. So it has a professional manager as well as 5 persons on staff on any one given day. So they would be more than happy with a perpetual condition. They are also directly in control of the landscapers, and I know from our experience in Plainville, anytime that somebody new has come on board, they've given them a full scope of what they are and are not allowed to do. Can I ask for record if Mr. Rotundi is one of our abutters or just an interested person?
Oh yeah, that's right. The Mr. Rotundi, do you live in Norton? You're supposed to say
17 Reservoir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I think we need to clarify with regard to what the Wetland Protection Act does not permit within a wetland versus, I mean, a person can step into a wetland or even walk across a wetland. That's not prohibited. Is that correct?
That's correct. They cannot alter.
I guess this is a question.
They cannot alter or disrupt.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
But what would be prohibited if somebody decided to set up a picnic table and build a campfire in a pit there? That would be prohibited. Is that correct?
I would say that is, because they'd have to remove vegetation to put in a picnic table and put in a fire pit, because it's probably already vegetated, the area that they're looking at. So
Yeah, we're effectively approving a limit of disturbance.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah. So they can't go beyond that point.
Yeah, I mean, and we have been faced with putting up a barrier when the homeowner doesn't know where the border is and would tend to potentially dump debris, landscaping debris and things like that in the wetland, which of course the Wetland Protection Act prohibits. So, but with regard to Mr. Rotundi's comment of jumping off the 1-foot wall, if you're walking and are not going to do destruction, that's actually permissible, particularly if you want to take a closer look at vegetation. So I think if there are no further questions or a motion for continuing this hearing until the 25th of March, and you can just note that it relates to file numbers both 250, 1129, and 1130.
I will make a motion to continue files 1129 and 1130 to the 25th of March meeting.
Second.
All right, motion by Dan. I think, Mark, you got the second. So roll call vote. Mark and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Tama?
Aye.
And Paxton?
Aye.
And I will throw in an aye, the motion carries, so we'll see you guys one way or the other next time.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Yeah. And on the agenda is file number 250-1136, 0 Eddy Street, concerning a project involving construction of 4 duplex units. I don't see any. Do we have a representative of the applicant, or were they going to present tonight that you know of, John?
Yes, we do have Margaret Bacon and Sam Widex on the call this evening, so they are going to present something to us. I don't know. I'll leave it up to Margaret and Sam to take it away with the presentation.
Sure. All set?
Okay.
Okay, Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, and I'm here with Sam Widak to go over the proposed changes with the 0 Eddy Street project. And I know this job's been around for a while, and we've done quite a few revisions. Is it okay to share the screen?
You're all set, Margaret. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you see that okay?
We don't see anything yet.
Not seeing
Okay.
anything yet.
Not quite yet.
Okay, hold on. Can you see that?
It's probably
Yes.
still.
Yeah, it's coming in now. Thank you.
Okay, so this site here is an overview of the entire project. I just thought it might be a little easier to use this one to kind of go over, just to recap everything and to go over all the changes that we've done since the initial filing. So back in 2022, an ANRAD was filed and approved for the wetland delineation. So the wetlands are all set, and those are reflected on this plan. And then what we also did, our initial design had the common driveway kind of going right through where those proposed houses are, right there. So we moved the common driveway about 80 feet to as far north as we could, and to stay within the zoning setback. And by doing that, that allowed me to get the drainage on the other side of the road. We had a hard time getting the drainage to work on the initial design. So we redesigned the common driveway, moved it, did a whole redesign of the stormwater system, which has been submitted to the peer review consultant and approved. And other comments from the commission was another big comment, changes, instead of duplexes now, these are single family houses. We went before the planning board several weeks ago for the special permit for duplexes. We were granted the common driveway, but we were not granted the special permit for duplexes. So we just replaced these with single family houses, single driveways. We eliminated the proposed municipal water line and are going to private wells, since we're going to single family houses. And I have the wells situated as such that they're 100 feet away from the septics and 100 feet away from the infiltration basins, which is required. Other changes we made, comments from the commission at one of the last meetings, was snow storage areas. I have about 4 or 5 snow storage areas throughout the common driveway. There's one up here. I have another one right here. There's another snow storage area. You can't see it so well on this plan. Right here, and then another snow storage right here at the beginning of the driveway. Then also the commission had comments regarding allowing access to the pond for all the residents. So we did, within this easement right here for this stormwater basin, we did include access to the pond for a walking path. And other comments at one of the last meetings was to include guardrails along the edge of the driveway. So those were the major changes to this. And as I mentioned, we just got approval from the planning board, but that was for single family house lots on a common driveway. So, and the stormwater, the stormwater hasn't been revised because obviously there's going to be a little less pavement. So I left the stormwater the way it was.
So Margaret, my understanding is that you're keeping the stormwater systems for the previous design, so they're actually going to be more than an improvement because it's taking less impervious area. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
For the amount of, for additional driveways, maybe that's about 10,000 square feet. It just wasn't worth changing the stormwater for that. So
Right.
Sure, we have more capacity.
But with the duplexes, you had two separate driveways going to each unit, right?
That's correct. So if
Yeah,
I
okay.
eliminate those driveways, so we do have, in theory, a little more capacity in these stormwater infiltration basins.
Okay.
All right, any questions from commission members or John? It seems you've
I have several.
addressed everything you wanted to address.
I have several questions
Okay.
with this new layout. So Margaret, is the frontage from Taunton Ave, or is it's not going to be off the common driveway, correct? Because that's
No,
not
the
going
frontage is all Taunton Ave, correct.
So those property owners own, theoretically, these really narrow lots that actually go down to the pond itself?
Correct. They're not that narrow, actually, but
So for instance, who owns the last lot adjacent to now I can't even see where the pond is. Where's the pond?
here's the pond. So here's the last lot, the fourth lot, and then that property comes down, and then, yeah, there's a narrow strip, up to Taunton. Now, all these lots do meet the shape factor.
Yep. Okay, so John, we're going to have to get fairly creative with this in terms of limiting access, tree removal, where these, all right, so I see you're showing the lawns theoretically where it's going to be green. What is if you can zoom in a little bit to one of those lots, what is the pink line?
Oh, I got stockpile areas, and this is the erosion control barrier.
The sediment control barrier. Okay, so
Yeah.
why is the sediment control barrier offset? Is it to accommodate the well? Because it theoretically should be against the lawn.
Well, I had to keep, like I said, the wells pushed back a little. I mean, it could have been tightened up a little, but here's the 100-foot buffer zone down here, and so the erosion control does get tighter as I come up through here to the first house, and then the stormwater basin.
Okay, if you can just tighten it up, the sediment control, to meet the lawn wherever you can, that would be helpful because they don't really need to clear beyond that, correct?
No?
Okay, so if you could tighten that up, that would be great. Now, the one thing I think that's missing, that you haven't gone over, is your new riverfront area calculations in terms of impacts based on this new layout. Those, for the record, we'll need those.
Actually, the riverfront impacts really don't change. So here's the 200-foot riverfront area right there. it goes through this basin just like it did before. That doesn't change. It just clips the corner of that house and this lawn. So the only house that's really within the buffer zone in the riverfront area is this first lot, and then the stormwater basin here, and then the other area that is in the riverfront is, you know, the existing gravel drive. So those calculations haven't changed from the notice of intent, and we're still well within the I think the amount of riverfront impacts is 1.6% if you do the math based on the total riverfront area on that parcel.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question. So can this parcel, exclusive of what you've already subdivided, can it be developed any further?
No, because the planning board's specific, we have four lots. That's all we can get on here. This is what was approved by the planning board.
Right.
There's
So
really-
I think the point I'm getting to is, so if the owner owns more than just what you're showing us, correct? And they could come at some point and show us yet another group of houses, we have to take a cumulative approach to the riverfront on this. So, I mean, I know it's a very large riverfront. Your denominator is huge. It's only 1%. But it's just something that we have to be mindful of. So maybe we can just put that in the findings, John,
So
Thomas?
yeah, they're not going to be able to. They're basically locked in. The rest of the property's landlocked. The
Okay.
common drive, this whole entire area, this common drive, I think they had to get a waiver for to even get in.
Okay.
So there's no way they're going to be able to develop any other portions of the property. If you're talking about more development on the 4 lots here, I think we should write that in as saying that, for instance, any future disturbance or anything they're proposing to do, they need to come in for an evaluation through the Conservation Commission to
Right.
establish. And we just basically use that existing riverfront calculation cumulatively for that. So we can write something up in an issued order stating the facts there.
Okay. Can you zoom in on the path that you said you're going to, the access path, so that we don't have 4 separate homeowners trying to create paths from their backyard and again, and cutting
Sure,
down
and-
vegetation?
We were trying to take advantage of this existing easement right here for this stormwater or infiltration basin. So I do have a walking path right here for pond access, and it gives me the area of the easement here. I know it's not very legible, but right here, walking path for pond access. And then this whole
Does that go
area
to the
right
pond
here.
edge?
What's that?
Does that go to the pond edge?
It should go to the pond edge, yes, because yes, here's the easement right here, and then
Oh,
this is the other side of the easement to the pond.
So we're going to want to see that pathway going to the pond so we can
Right.
just have record of it.
Sure.
That way we can just have that information laid out. So that way, if anybody has any questions, we can say it was established here for the residences over here, the HOA, whatever they're going to be. So we can basically maintain it and establish it.
Well,
Yes.
I do know the original A&R plan had the original common driveway right through the middle, and that's where that easement is. So we have to revise that easement to reflect the new location. And I believe under that plan, we could better describe the easement for the walking path here at the stormwater basin, because these are all going to be easements also, so that they should all be included on that.
Right. Well, I'm just saying that just show the pathway going all the way to the water's edge, like just a line, like a dashed line or something. So that way we can establish it, showing it basically being approved by us to go there.
Okay.
Because, obviously a path to be permitted by us because it's going to be maintenance and removal of vegetation within that area and giving us kind of a fair distance. I mean, of width of that path. I mean, typically paths are 3 to 4 feet wide. And if these folks want to basically, have a canoe or a small boat, then for instance, that's going to have to be established. And then also, thinking about for future use of that, that could be permitted at a later date, but that's just a discussion we're going to have.
So the area between your sediment control line and the back half of that infiltration basin, that's going to be maintained as is today, right? That's not going to be cleared? Yeah, right in there.
Well, here's the erosion control right here. The big
Sediment.
line.
Yep. Sediment
So
control. Yep.
Yeah, this right here is not to be disturbed.
Okay, with the exception of the path.
The path, correct.
Okay. Okay, and then I would ask you if you could add a sign that says dedicated or something to alert the homeowners that this is the only access to the access path to the pond.
I would
Again,
just have it say Meadowbrook Pond access and call
Yep.
it that. Call it that. And obviously, I mean, as you know, we're going to want to basically put up probably posts and placards or some sort of visual barrier to inform the homeowners that they can't go beyond a certain point without contacting us. So just be on the lookout for potentially having those on the next set of plans too. It's easier if you do it now than waiting till after the fact. So I would just plan ahead and be proposing posts at those locations.
Okay.
So that would be at the limit of the edge of the lawn for all these residences. I think that would be a fair assessment, right? I'm asking the commission.
Signage at the end of the lawns on every lot?
Yeah, and all the posts roughly 50 to 70 feet apart.
Okay. Now, do you
Within
have a
what?
typical placard you use?
We do have placards. The posts should be 4-inch with cedar or pressure treated wood, whatever's available. The ones that are going to last.
Sure, and so the actual placard and the sign, I can get those at your, or they
You
can get at your
You
office?
can pick them up at our office, yes.
Okay.
So, John, I think I'm going to need some clarification. Is all of the information, I mean, this project has been going on for a rather long time. And now we have a change. Is additional information going to be forthcoming, or are we at a point where we would actually consider closing this?
Well, I leave that up to the commission to make that decision, but one condition that I am going to basically recommend that I've talked to Mr. Wydacht about is just conditioning the existing dam that's out there. We've had a discussion about it, so obviously I think the homeowners association is going to be responsible for making sure that that is free and clear of all sorts of debris and making sure that it's in functioning properly and there's no obstructions. And they're going to be responsible for any sort of management criteria and keeping that. I just don't know if the commission wants, a formal operation and maintenance plan from the HOA, or if they're going to be looking for something, just in the event of an emergency, it's going to be required.
so I assume there's going to be a stormwater O&M plan.
So there is a stormwater O&M for the roadway. It doesn't include the dam.
Right, but it includes the infiltration basin so those people know what they're getting into and, okay.
Correct.
So so who's going to own the dam? Is it going to be all four homeowners?
That is my understanding as of right now.
Well, I absolutely think we need to have an O&M plan for that then. And I'm personally not comfortable closing with the amount of information that they owe us for the limit of work, the posts, and the what was the last thing I had asked for? Oh, the walkway details, the path details. But
Yeah, and I think that's reasonable, that they can just come back with those things specified on the plan. But I mean, potentially this can, John, you can work on an order of conditions
I can work on drafting up an order conditions. Obviously, there's some deliverables that are going to have to be provided before any pre-construction meeting, which I would most certainly want to have the Mass DOT permit in hand. If there needs to be one because they're on 140, I want to make sure that they've received all of the other kind of permits from the other town departments. And then, just having a better understanding for the O&M for the dam. And then just like we said tonight, just having all the information for the final plan. Snow storage was a question last time, so that's been answered. But yeah, I mean, Pat has looked at the stormwater, and most of the stuff has not changed from the layout of the houses. But if that does change, if the house layouts do change, they'll have to come back for an amendment. So I think that's the only thing that I would probably advocate, is that if the house layouts do change, they'll come back for an amendment.
So I think unless there are further questions or items to discuss, we can consider a motion to continue this hearing until our next meeting, which is the 25th of March.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Mark for continuation of the hearing for file number 250-1136 until March 25th. So roll call vote beginning with Tama and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. So depending on what more has to be discussed, we may or may not see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
So our next item on the agenda is file number 250-1143, 360 South Worcester Street, concerning a warehouse construction. On my agenda, there is a requested continuation until April 8th.
If nobody's going to say anything about it, then I will happily make a motion to continue the public hearing to April 8th.
Second.
So we have a motion by Dan, seconded by Tama, for continuing the hearing for file number 250-1143 until April 8th. Roll call vote. Paxton and Mark, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Dan and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And Tama?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. Next item is file number 250-1144 concerning a subdivision on Reservoir Street. Also, a request has been made for a continuation until April 8th.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Dan, seconded by Lisa. Roll call vote beginning with Paxton and Mark.
Aye. Aye.
And Dan and Lisa.
Aye.
And Tama?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. We have file number 250-1146, 38 Charlotte Avenue. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Yes, my name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Eric and Judy Wensley, who are also both in attendance tonight.
All right, so I'm assuming you'll be able to share your screen. Maybe we can hear what the new information is.
Okay, can everybody see my screen here?
We can. If you can just blow it up a little bit, that'll make it easier.
Yeah, okay. So just a brief background of what we're presenting here. So the applicant is proposing to take down and rebuild the existing single-family house on the lot 38 Charlotte Avenue. The entire site is currently lawn, which is around the existing house. We'll shoot over to that one. Here's the existing house. We have a gravel parking lot and an existing shed. Down to the south, we have a BVW that borders on Winnicunnet Pond. So the applicant is now proposing a new single-family house complete with a deck, another deck in this location here, a garage with a house on top of that, and then a driveway in this location. The entire site, except for a small portion up in this location, is within the 100-year flood zone, so it's all within bordering land subject to flooding. So we have provided the calculations to mitigate for that. We do not have any, we have a net increase of flood storage on the site. That information was provided to John. We have provided new plans that include grading up in this location here. So these are graded down to provide more compensatory flood storage. As you can see, the dash line is the original grade, and we're grading it all the way down to 72 in this spot, and then grading the 71 up to here. So providing additional flood storage than what we had currently or previously provided to the commission. We're also doing increased grading in this location here too, just to allow for more grades at the elevation 70 and 71 and 72. So here is a graphic of where we're providing all of our compensatory flood storage. So in the red, this is where we're going to be filling the flood zone. That's going to be a portion of the proposed driveway, and then also the garage, which is going to be outside of the FEMA flood zone elevation of 73.4. The rest of it is going to be within the FEMA flood zone, but cut down to elevation 68 all the way up to 72, which is up in this location. We have a cut and fill table here. So as you can see at each elevation, we're not increasing any of the fill. We're actually providing additional flood storage at each elevation right here, resulting in a total of 1,644.5 cubic feet of flood storage that was not on the site additionally. We'll also take a look quickly at the architectural plans, because that was something else that the commission wanted to see. You can see in this location here, this is where we're providing a lot of the flood storage mitigation. This bottom section of the house is going to be all flood storage now, where previously there was a wall that was running across right here that was going to be dry space. It's now going to be all open up to floodwaters, so it'll all be able to flood down here. There's going to be no living space. The floodwater is going to be able to enter in through the back of the house here because we have just pillars, and then recede back when the storm is over. Additionally, there will be flood storage provided around towards the eastern portion of the house. So that was what we provided to the commission. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Is there any grading interior to that storage so that the water will flow back out?
So it's at grade 68. We can put a very small amount of incremental value, like 0.1, but right now it's unrestricted flow in and out of the back of the house. So it'll flow back down because the elevation down here is 67. So eventually the floodwater will exit the bottom of the house and back into the BVW and Winnicott Pond if that happens.
Okay, but you're not grading interior to that unfinished basement. So how does the water get out of there?
So down in this location, we're starting our grades at elevation 68 in here, and that grade is going to be all the way back. So as you can see, the slab is 68 here. So the 68 elevation will be throughout this entire thing. So it'll allow the water to enter at the elevation 68, which is down in this portion of the property, and then recede when the water is done.
Okay, this is what I'm confused about. If the entire thing is flat at 68, then the water's not going to drain, it's going to pond.
It's a concrete slab. It'll drain out. It's going to drain out of the concrete slab through the back of the property here because it's going to drain back down to the 70 or the 67 contour when the water recedes.
But the whole thing back to the back edge of that foundation is one elevation at 68.
Correct.
Okay, good luck getting that to flow at times, but okay.
So the house is on top of that area?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. You were a bit muffled there.
Yeah, the house, the actual house is on top of that open area?
That is correct. Yep, the actual house will be outside of the FEMA flood zone elevation. We met with the building inspector and we had a review of the site plans, and he gave us a verbal okay, but he's going to take a second look through the entire site plan and the architectural plans. Those were sent to him, and write a memo saying that he is okay with the proposed site plans as they currently stand. Let's see.
Is by a stairway or?
So here's a representation of where the house, what the house is going to look like. Here's down in this portion of the house is where the flood water is going to enter. The entire house is going to be above the flood zone elevations. There's not going to be any living space down below where we're currently showing that the flood water is going to be stored. It's just going to be all open to allow the water to have unrestricted flow into our compensatory flood storage below the house.
I guess, I don't know how to ask this again, but
So in effect,
if it's flat, how is it going to recede over that distance if it's flat? You should be grading underneath that slightly so that it recedes and flows back out. Otherwise, it could be ponded and trapped against that foundation, and I certainly wouldn't want to live there with water standing below my house.
So we can add a small elevation change here, but still keep it within the 68 grade if that would be okay.
Well,
It would be a very slight grade.
Yeah, you need to ask your engineer that, because I would not live in that house knowing that water may not recede underneath me. If it's flat, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to pond up. You're going to have standing water under there. It's not in a coastal environment when you typically have something on piers and it ebbs and flows with the tide. Or
Storm water will recede back when the storm is completed, and the water will recede as well. It's not going to just stand on top of a concrete slab. It'll recede back down to the 67 contour, and then the 66, which is the BVW.
It won't make its way out of there if it's flat. That's all I'm trying to say. So you should probably want to check with your engineer, because again, I can see water ponding there. You're saying the 67 is lower at the mouth of it, but in the back it's flat.
well, Lisa, I think the point you're making is it needs to be graded in the same way that a parking lot would be graded to promote drainage. So,
Yes.
but this is more, a building inspector and perhaps planning board requirement. Because it's an unusual feature we don't usually see on plans and review, but it needs to be graded very gently so that as the water goes down.
The other thing, Julian, is if that flood storage, okay, so say it floods and the water doesn't recede and it takes up, half a foot. And then there's another flood. So already you have your flood storage compromised. If you have back-to-back floods, you could be compromising it because you're not starting from zero. It's already flooded. It's not receding. And that's what I'm concerned about. So I would suggest you talk to an engineer, Tom.
We can certainly look into adding a small incremental grade under the house to keep it within the 67 or the 68 grade, but add a small incline to allow water to flow rearwards towards the pond again.
You just don't want to take up your flood storage volume if it's not going to flow. That's my point. But
All right, and the space under the garage,
So this is all being filled under the garage here. This is going to be dry above flood elevation. This is 73.89 at the top of the concrete. So this is going to be the only area aside from this small section of driveway that's actually going to be filling within the bordering land subject to flooding. And we're mitigating with the section under the house and then also the compensatory storage that we're cutting over in the top right corner of the property.
Yeah, my suggestions to the applicant were to update the impacts for the fill table because of the garage and also part of the foundation and stuff like that. So
we did do that, John.
Okay.
We sent it. This is all a new table, and then this cut fill table is according to that table. So the numbers we got from here are according to the plan set that we sent to you.
Right. So the incremental volume of excavation, I'm talking about the incremental volume of fill. So for
Yes,
instance,
so we're going to be increasing the amount of compensatory flood storage at each elevation. So there will be technically no fill within each elevation. That's not, we wouldn't be having, the numbers wouldn't be greater than 0 in this case because we're actually increasing the amount of flood storage in the elevations.
okay, so you do the calculation that way. So for instance, if you have fill within the floodplain, you have to call it out. And then basically the volume of excavation gets calculated off of that. So for instance, what you're gonna need to basically report that there is fill, because I'm looking at this table and I'm looking at it and it shows that you have 0 fill when you have a proposed garage that's filling into the, that's what I'm getting at, is that information needs to be reflected accordingly in this table.
That's not how the table works, though. As you can see down here, this is the area that we're going to be having most of the fill because the numbers of compensatory flood storage is the smallest. So in elevation 72 and 71, this is the smallest section of area where there's going to be actual storage, but we're still increasing the amount. So we're not actually going to be having any filling that's greater than what we're cutting in that in these areas.
Okay, this table's wrong because you have to account incrementally. It's like you're taking the delta. You need to show us how you got there. So I suggest you go back to the MACC hydrology handbook or the state's hydrology handbook and see how to fill one of these out. Because you absolutely have to tell us what the incremental fill is before you can tell us, okay, great, you're compensating for it, but you need to show it. You need to show that, you need to fill out that part of the table, how much you're filling. MACC, I think might not be MACC, it's probably DEP. Stormwater handbook tells you step by step how to fill this out. Because right now you're not showing any fill, but you are filling. So that has to be fixed. And can you go back to the layout plan, please, with the grading?
Oh,
I mean, it looks like you did the calculation on this plan.
these are the calculations for the compensatory flood storage.
Did you show the fill there? Where's the volume of fill?
So the way you do these is you take the elevation square footage,
I know how to
you
do
add
them.
them. Okay.
Yeah. I know how to do them, but I'm not seeing your fill volume. But anyway, okay.
Is some of this because you're filling in an area that the previous house displaced? Is that
That is correct. So
okay, well that needs to be clarified, I think.
it is clarified in these numbers here. These numbers reflect that the proposed garage and the area within the small driveway is essentially the same as this piece of the house and the existing shed. We're actually increasing the volume by a slight margin, several thousand cubic feet.
Right, but so go back to your table for a second. So the way the table should be filled out.
So the table,
okay.
The table is subtracting the current value of what is out there to to the existing table. That's how we filled it out. We're not increasing any fill in any of the locations. We're actually increasing the amount of excavation in all of them.
Right, but what you need to show here, so between 68 and 69, you should have a value. What is the incremental volume of fill? Okay, so say that's 320 cubic feet, and then you're going to say at that same elevation, we're going to have the excavation, which is the storage proposed, which is the 522. So you need to show on an incremental basis that your fill volume, your compensation volume is higher than your fill volume at each elevation. So I think that's the only thing that's missing from this table.
Tom, you're not responding to that.
We'll certainly check it out, and we'll take a look at the table and send it back into John when we've had some time. But we're definitely going to need to take a look back and see if we can revise the table accordingly if needed. Or otherwise, we'll speak to John and work it out.
Okay. I mean, certainly I would comment this is a big step forward compared to what was initially presented to us, but and I think these are relatively minor issues that can be clarified.
I think all the information's here. It just needs to be compiled neatly and kind of comprehensively in a package. I think Tom and his team did a good job with getting us the information and everything. It just needs some of the information needs to be clarified, but I think most of the information's here. We just need to get it more concise and into a good package.
So what would you like to see for the next hearing aside from the updated table? Is there anything else?
What
Yeah,
do I?
And then check with an engineer about grading below that foundation so that it drains out and you're not compromising flood storage if you have back-to-backs.
Yeah, I gave you guys some suggestions. Obviously, the thing to take a look at is just to make sure the foundations and supports are calculated into your BLSF impacts, and just make sure you got all the information you need to. And you sent me over the WPA form. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'll take a look at that and see if everything jives. But if that changes, obviously send over a revised version of that as well.
Okay.
This is Eric Lindsley, the homeowner. Yeah, Tom, thank you for bringing this forward. I appreciate it. It's a really good job. My one question is for John and the commission, and I just want to, in the interest of time and things of that nature, for the remaining items that we have going forward, do you guys see any issue with the foundation design? For example, we still have to, it's going to take some time to get this through structural engineering and things of that nature. So I just want to make sure that at least, I know we got through the building inspector. Okay. Nick had approved or was okay with the design that we had. I just want to make sure that the commission, at least from a structural standpoint, is okay, other than the grading issues and things of that nature. Do you see any major changes, any changes on the horizon in that regard?
Eric, I'm going to say that I think most of the information that we've talked about tonight is minor adjustments to be made to the plan and tables and all the other information that needs to be supported. I think most of the bulk work has been done accordingly. It's just getting everything kind of in a more kind of tight-knit kind of package of materials. So that way, my board can basically make a good decision. Hopefully by the next meeting, they can kind of make a determination or close this out provided that everything is presented to us.
Yeah, right on. All right. Thank you, guys. That's all I have.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I would just add that the initial plan that was presented, I mean, it's in an area that is prone to flooding, and you basically need to build a house on piers, and that was not the original design. This design gets very close to that, and I personally am satisfied with it, that the owners of this home in the future won't have periodic catastrophes of stored materials in areas that get flooded. And I think that was a defect in your prior design, which has been corrected.
Yeah, understood. And just so the commission knows as well, I'm not a builder or developer. My wife and I we're going to live in the home, and obviously we'll get old and sell it at some point. But we're building it for us and our family. So,
but
I know that doesn't have any bearing or anything.
Yeah, presumably you're not building it so that you have periodic flood damage. So
yeah, of course, but we're not going to, we're not doing this with the intent of being out of it right away and having future soon to be homeowner get stuck with a situation that they're not familiar with. So hopefully we're there long enough to experience whatever there is to experience and be able to pass that knowledge along to the next homeowner.
Yeah, but from our perspective, we review many projects where the developer is here to present a design and sell something to buyers who may not be savvy about what the future risks are.
For sure.
And so you have to understand our perspective.
Absolutely.
That we're here to protect the interests of those who live here in Norton.
Yep, for sure. And I appreciate that, guys. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
So I think we, I mean, it still is within the possibility of being able to review an order of conditions next time, assuming everything gets addressed. But I think for the moment, we need to continue this hearing, and we may be in a position to just close it out and review the order.
And I will work on drafting up an order for the next meeting in light of our discussions this evening, because I feel that, for instance, the applicant can get the necessary information to the commission and make responses and changes to the design as needed.
So that being said, unless there are further immediate questions, we can consider a motion to continue the hearing for 38 Charlotte Avenue to our next meeting, which is March 25th.
So moved.
Oh, second.
That was pretty simultaneous. You'd need not even a stopwatch would do that. All right. So we're going to say motion by Dan, seconded by Tama for continuation of this hearing until March 25th. Roll call vote starting with Paxton and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
Tama?
Aye.
Okay, there you go. And I'll throw in an aye. So thank you guys. And we'll see you next time. Next item on the agenda is file number 250-1149, 183 Taunton Avenue. Do we have a representative of the applicant?
Craig Siganowski of Rim Engineering, representing the owner, Lucas Washington, not with us tonight. Assume you want me to share screen.
Go ahead, Craig. You have sharing capabilities.
So, that come up for you?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Now it is.
You'll have to enlarge it a bit, though.
Yeah. So the last time we were before you, there was a comment from DEP regarding the existing septic system. But just to refresh what we're doing. This 183 Taunton Avenue backs up to the Wading River. So we have riverfront. We've been before you in the past for the pool area, for the sunroom that was added, porches that were added, porch in the rear, porch in the front. That was all taken care of through order of conditions, and then it was finalized through the excuse me, certificate of compliance 2018. And at this time, we're looking to do also on the property for wetlands. We have the BVW along the river, but also an isolated land subject to flooding here, and then the 100-year floodplain runs through roughly where these trees were put in to protect it, so that as there had been damage to the area in the past. Now what we're looking to do is to add a garage, but it's a garage that's for an RV, so it's 52 by 28. Sits on the existing septic system. The trenches run here. So we're proposing and have been approved by the Board of Health a new leach field using alternate system, so that reduces the size. We have the existing tank in the back, so the piping will come up, and then in front of that will be the proposed garage. What DEP had pointed out was that because this leach field, even though the house, the driveway, and so forth were from 1996 prior to the Rivers Act, the septic system actually didn't go until 97, so they asked for the area of disturbance that we are showing from the sediment control here to the garage within the riparian zone to be added to the calculations. So we have a total of riverfront disturbance, 3,120 square feet. The entire area is 3.92% of the riverfront over the entire lot. I believe that was the way we left it last time, that the John and the DEP had asked for these calculations to be updated to reflect that disturbance area. So if you have any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to answer them.
So, John, that completes the information that was outstanding then?
From what I could assess and evaluate from what we had, yes. That was one of the most lingering things was from DEP's comments for the septic.
So we can consider closing this and doing an order of conditions at our next meeting.
If the commission chooses to do so, yes.
So I just had a quick question. The original house was it exempt under Riverfront?
Yeah, so it was permitted in April of 1996 and the Rivers Act didn't come out until August 96, so it was exempt.
So it's not cumulative. We're starting at the whatever's new today, right?
Yeah, so the applicant came in, I think back in 2015, 2016 to do some, and that information has been cumulative, but everything before that, from the original construction in 1996 or permitted in 1996, that information is exempt. So the house, the original house and everything like that is exempt.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions from members of the audience or commission? So if not, I think we can consider a motion to close unless somebody objects.
So moved.
Second.
So motion by Tama, I'm going to give the second to Lisa. So roll call vote starting with Dan and Lisa.
Aye.
And Paxton and Mark.
Aye. Aye.
And Tama.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. So the motion carries. We've closed the hearing for file number 250-1149. So the next item is file number 250-1150, 27 Power Street. Do we have a representative?
Yes, it's still me, Craig Siganowski, Rim Engineering. Also, Lorna and Scott Carroll are on. I can share the other plan. I can find it. Give me a second here, please. Okay, this is 27 Power Street. The last meeting, we did not have a DEP file number, but it was issued the following week. So if you recall, we have vegetated bordering wetlands at the rear of our property, right at the property line. The small lot, 18,000 square feet. The house is set about 17 feet off the property line. We have been before the Zoning Board of Appeals for the proposed addition, which is this area here, which will be about 3 feet off the property line here, 30 feet off the rear property line, 33 feet off the property line, 30 feet off the BBW line. So we had gone over that the property lines will have to be marked out, sediment controls staked in place prior to any construction. Spoke to the contractor about this. We have a piece of driveway that comes up along the side of the house. He can park here and excavate these walls, which will not, this will be a slab foundation, slab. on grade, no foundation underneath, so he's just digging for the frost walls. And we can enter the property over here, avoiding the leach field and the septic tanks behind the patio, and come over here and also dig these trenches, pour the frost walls, and then pour the slab on grade. We are doing a roof water recharge system off the new addition. It's very shallow. We're just doing like a septic system with 6 inches of crushed stone and the 4-inch PVC piping, because we know we have high groundwater out here. We are calling for a dewatering area to be in the front, and all the stockpiling as needed to either be in the driveway or be in the front yard, not on top of the leach field, obviously, but there is room here for storage of materials. If any soil is being stored, then it'd have to have sediment controls placed along the base of the piles. That detail is on the plan. Sediment controls, and then we have a construction exit here with crushed stone to protect the road from the mud. So that's where we left it last time. And as I said, if we had had the DEP file number, we felt like we could have closed it last week. So we hope that we will be able to do that this week. If you have any questions about the project, be happy to answer them.
So other than the file number, I mean, this is pretty much identical. There have been no changes on the plan, is that right?
Correct. I have not made any changes.
Yeah.
So the only recommendation I made last time was to make sure that the encroachments that are on the abutting CR parcel are removed prior to any pre-construction meeting. And then, for instance, we're probably going to want to put up some sort of visual barrier along the CR and also the rear of the property for the 25-foot no disturb buffer. So just be prepared for that as being one of the conditions in any sort of issued order of conditions.
Would they, excuse me, would they be allowed to use the post with the signs on them?
That would be my recommendation. And I leave it up to the commission to make that determination.
And then I had mentioned that what you said about the disturbance on the abutting property, excuse me. And the neighbors, I mean, sorry, my client wasn't aware of what you were referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So would that be, you said just now before the on-site meeting, but
yeah, before the pre-construction meeting, if we could just clear up all that encroachment material, that'd be great.
do you know what the material is? Is it?
I mean, we can go over it if we want to have a pre-site meeting, but the aerial that I have shows some encroachments, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
So we can consider closure of this hearing. Is that your thought, John?
That's my suggestion, yes.
Any questions from members of the commission or the audience? If not, we can consider a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1150.
Second.
We have a motion made by Lisa, seconded by Paxton. Roll call vote, starting with Tama and Paxton,
Aye.
Aye.
Dan and Lisa,
Aye.
Aye.
and Mark.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. So we'll be doing an order of conditions next meeting. And that completes our public hearing schedule. Next item on the agenda is a request for well, you might have to clarify for me. Oh, this is a certificate of compliance, file number 250-976 at 26 East Main Street.
So this is for Wheaton College. This is the treatment of the Peacock Pond. They're coming up for their, I want to say, third extension for this treatment kind of that they've done. And my recommendation was for them is to close out the close out the order, and we'll basically just have a perpetual condition in there that gives them the luxury of filing an annual report every year, notifying us of what their schedule is for treatment of the pond as we move forward. That way they don't have to keep on doing these extensions. I don't know if the commission would be amenable to that, but it was just a suggestion because their treatments have been the same for the past, I don't know, a couple of years. Isn't that right, Colin?
Yeah, that's correct. I think, this would be our third extension here. So, nothing's new change. We're using very low toxicology herbicide. It's using drinking water reservoirs. So, like you said, we're just kind of continuing maintenance, but, would keep the commissioners, informed and everything. And then, we do reports at the end of the year just to keep everyone up to date.
So if the commission is comfortable with us closing this out and putting a perpetual condition in on the COC stating that they're going to notify the commission within 48 hours of their treatment schedule and also provide us annual reports, I'd be open to that if anyone else is.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Makes sense.
So we would issue then a certificate of compliance with that perpetual condition.
That's correct.
So I'll make a motion to issue a full COC for 250-976.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Paxton. Roll call vote beginning with Tama and Paxton.
Aye.
Aye.
And Mark and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. We are now up to orders of conditions. File number 250-1147 and 250-48. These happen to be identical, but and the only comment I had is on my printed copy, and it may just be an artifact of coming out of the Google Drive. The numbering of the pages, I assume that doesn't persist.
The problem is whenever we upload Word documents to the Google Drive, they sometimes don't translate to what their current status is. So I apologize for that. That actually works with PDFs too. For some reason, I don't know why it does it, but they all get discombobulated. Kind of like my day-to-day job.
But I mean, I guess technically we're on 14 Lloyd Circle first. I didn't find anything I would change. Any other comments? I mean, on both of these projects, the actual construction was barely went into the buffer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I know. I probably could have done RDAs with these, but I wanted to go by the book. So
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to issue the order of conditions for 250-1147 as written.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Paxton. Roll call vote starting with Mark and Dan.
Aye.
And Lisa and Tama.
Aye.
Aye.
Paxton.
Aye.
I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. And we have can I use the word carbon copy, identical?
You can use the word carbon copy because I copied and pasted that.
But nowadays, kids don't understand the reference of a carbon copy, but that's all right.
No, they do not well, if they write checks, maybe they do. I don't know.
That's true. But no, they go by Venmo.
Oh, is that what it is now? Venmo?
Well, and I don't have a Venmo account, but I may have to get one.
Do you have TikTok, Julian? I just have to ask.
I look at TikTok, and we can get into a social discussion of that. But
Oh, we can do it. We can do it later. Let's get through these. Yeah.
yeah. Well, okay. So if there were no comments on 14, Lloyd Circle, 16 should have the same fate, and we're ready for a motion.
All right, I'll make the same motion, to, issue the, where am I here? Order of conditions for file 250-1148.
Second.
Motion by Lisa, seconded by Paxton, beginning with Mark and Dan. How do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Lisa and Tama
Aye.
and Paxton?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. The motion carries. So we have the tree trimming order for 0 South Washington Street, file number 250-1092.
So I only added one little section in there. I think it's on the first page under amendment. So that way people can see it, but basically giving them the right to do what they want with the trees.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking if some of this debris fell and was just left there, I mean, this is what happens with the wind. So any questions, comments, revisions? Otherwise, we can consider a motion.
John, they define exactly what they want to, clear?
Yeah, they have a designated view distance, sight distance plan that they're using. So all the vegetation within that area, they would selectively look at and evaluate to see which is going to be obstructive for the billboard. But everything within that, on the plan that they presented, they're going to be looking at it, or the tree cutter is going to be looking and evaluating that. And there was discussion of how they're going to do that, and it was by crane or by tree climbers. So that's how they're going to do the maintenance.
Okay, and they have clear access without going through a wetland to get there?
Yeah, they're going to have to come in from 495 or come in from the other area, which is going to be, I think it's the extended stay that they put the billboard on. So they'll have to come in from one way or the other to avoid the wetlands. So.
Okay, and they know that?
They do. That was basically what they were saying, is that their plan is basically to not impede the wetlands.
Okay.
Well, I mean, they don't even have roadways in there, so
yeah,
they implied that they were going to do it by tree climbers and lifts that extend a fair distance.
So we need a motion for to issue an amended order for file 250-1092.
Motion made by Lisa and seconded by?
Seconded
by Tama. Roll call vote, Mark and Dan.
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa and Tama.
Aye.
Paxton?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. Motion carries. So we're up to draft minutes for February 12th. I don't have any comments myself on this. Other than it's quite long, but I guess the meeting was long.
I think that was one of our longest meetings.
potential revisions? Potential motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the February 12th, 2024 meeting minutes as drafted.
Second.
We have a motion by Lisa, seconded by Mark. Mark and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Lisa and Tama?
Aye.
I wasn't there, so
She abstains.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that might have to be revised. And Paxton?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. And I do have some comments on February 26th. I guess this was where there was a first effort to use italics for quotes.
Yes, yeah. But I think that's the way it used to be done. It used to be the whole paragraph below the file number was in italics.
But you didn't have to make it so explicit that I was such a square.
What? Well, let's see. Okay, well, I guess I'll open these up now because I'm curious. Where was that? I thought we were all squares in this. On
my copy, and I don't know if it's universal. Some characters are replaced with squares, and the capital K is one of them.
So it's a symbol. It's a symbol thing.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
So
I don't know how we fix that because it's kind of pervasive through this.
It might be a Google Drive.
I think that's a Google
cluster.
Drive thing.
Yeah, mine looks fine.
Yeah, you were not replaced with squares, Julian.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's probably a Google Drive thing.
I mean, I could do that. There are lots of symbols for squares in the in Microsoft Word. So, I mean, Prince did it. He replaced himself with a symbol. You know, you could you could have your own.
I don't know. I don't know if I have the same legal issues that Prince had.
But we would have to call you the commissioner formerly known as Julian. So now known as Square. I mean,
well,
it happened to
perhaps
Twitter
we
as well.
Perhaps this coming June we could make it the member formerly known as the chair, because somebody else can be the chair.
Lisa?
we'll resume that.
Calls.
But in the meantime, the only note that I would make is on my printed copy that the date of these minutes is kind of not terribly prominent. It's kind of buried in the first line. So you kind of have to search.
Oh, okay.
For the date. So if, you might want to put Norton Conservation Commission minutes of February 26th.
I will...
on the same line.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, it should be standalone. It's kind of mixed in with the remote stuff.
So we will do that.
Okay. It's already consider it changed on tonight's minutes already as we speak.
So Dan, are you going to resubmit those minutes to the office tomorrow?
If you want me to, sure.
Okay. I'll have
And I have
Megan.
to apologize. I abstained from the minutes, but I should have abstained from the 26th, not the 12th. I was at the meeting on the 12th.
Okay, we'll make
That's my fault.
we'll make that correction.
We will make that correction. So was there anything else besides that, not liking the date being not large enough? Or was that it?
From my perspective, that's it.
Okay, well, that's not so bad. Lisa?
I have to abstain. I was not there.
Oh, you were not, oh, well, you picked the right overlong meeting to miss.
All right,
Okay.
hunting for a motion.
Somebody
Or
did
did-
attend.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion by Mark, seconded by Paxton to accept the minutes of February 26th as minimally revised. Mark and Dan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Aye.
And Paxton,
Aye.
and I'll throw in an aye, and Tama and Lisa will throw in abstentions.
Okay.
And we're up to report from staff.
So,
Oh,
Flooding.
so just before we do that, so does that mean, Tama, that you were at the February 12th? The February 12th
Yes,
meeting?
I
when you
was at the
voted?
February 12th meeting, and I
Okay.
approved, minutes.
Okay, thank you.
So we have significant flooding going on for the last week or so. So I've been out on inspections, taking a look at all the areas that have been problematic or we've been notified of being problematic by public safety and residents and whatnot. So I've been kind of busy the last couple days, but besides that, I just wanted to let people know that Joe Carvalho is on the call tonight, but he has, I guess, started the discussions with the school committee, and he met with them today. He's going to be meeting with me tomorrow morning to go over a few things on how we progress with, I guess, the next steps. Joe, do you want to just give the commission a kind of an update as how things went with the school committee or the superintendent?
I believe they went well today. They seemed to be receptive to some of the ideas, and their opinion was that we would have to see how the committee felt about it.
Okay. So have you scheduled a meeting with them yet? Or
We have one scheduled on Thursday evening.
okay, great. So I will not be here. I'll be in Florida, but for instance, please let me know. And hopefully things go great for you.
Thank you. We'll touch base.
All right. Sounds good. Do you want us to talk to the commission, or do you want to hold off on that right now?
Why don't we get a little more research first on that?
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. All right. I'll see you.
Thank you.
Yep. So the next item is to discuss with the commission about putting together a dedication plaque for Ron O'Reilly. And the thought is for it to go at the Chartley Dam, where the dam actually is. I need to basically figure out the location and then also the where it would be best suited to kind of really advocate his presence and his willingness to help us out with the management aspect of that. Obviously, I'd like to talk to the family, the O'Reilly family, and discuss this with them too. I'm kind of giving them room to, grieve and basically be with family at this time of need. So, but that is something that I'd like to kind of get organized. So I've had Megan kind of look into arranging to have a plaque and everything. So if anybody has any ideas or any sort of quotes, or, I mean, most of you've worked with Ron for a very long time. So anything that, you would basically want to, put on a dedication plaque, or kind of what has his full embodiment of Ron, to kind of go with it, I'd appreciate any feedback especially those of you who have worked with him for more than 2.5 years like I have. So I would really appreciate it if you guys could get that to me, within a month or so.
And I think to some extent, family should have some input because, Ron was a very full citizen. Let's put it this way in terms of his. What brought about his demise was unfortunately his patriotic service in the military in terms of exposure to Agent Orange. So I think, noting that he was a veteran, a patriot, a true dedicated citizen and an excellent steward for our town. I think the ultimate decider is going to be what the family wants. The other concern I would have is we need to have it designed in a way that will be resistant to being either stolen, destroyed, or defaced. And I don't know how we're going to address that. But it's unfortunately the reality of putting a dedication plaque out in the open.
And I'm not sure exactly where we're thinking, but I know that area along the intersection of 123 and Southwester is slated to be renovated kind of substantially in the next couple of years too. So it'd be nice to not have to move it either, if we're thinking it's along the roadside.
Yeah, what about any thought to the town green, where there are already plaques and maybe more accessible to more people? I don't know. But you're right, MassDOT's going to bomb out that intersection.
At some point they are, yeah. But, my thought was, Ron was really invested into Chartley Dam and the management of that pond. That was kind of his backyard. So, he lived there for X amount of years, and, I'd like to do something towards the thing that he enjoyed the most. And that's what I thought would be, the best solution. But, I'm open to suggestions. Ultimately, I would like to put something there in his honor. But, maybe right now is not the time and we just have a plaque put up in the common like Lisa suggested. I just want to do something to kind of really show our dedication and appreciation for everything that he did for this board and the town. So.
Well, the other thing is we might maybe ask Janet where.
Right. And that's obviously a discussion that I'm looking to have with her at some point. I just don't think right now is the time to do that.
Right. But she might have a preference as to its location as well.
Right. And I think, I just want basically, if the Chartley Dam is what she says, yeah, that would be a great idea, that the commission would be open for that being the potential location because, we are the stewards of that dam and also that pond. So, it's just something that I just want to basically start the conversation.
I don't know if you've heard, this is something I retold to Janet. I don't know if Julian was I don't think Julian was there, but we used to all talk when the meetings were in person after the conservation meetings. And Ron told me about a time where a million years ago, he was a clerk in Fernandez, which was where the Aubuchon is now. Or no, wait a minute. Where the Aubuchon was, whatever it is now,
Ace Hardware.
And Ace Hardware, and Mr. Fernandez. Apparently, there were 3 clerks, and I forget what happened, but there was some brouhaha, and there was some kind of nonsense that went on. And I guess Mr. Fernandez came back, or whoever was manager then came back to the store and immediately bypassed Ron because he knew that Ron would never do anything that was below board. So he just, he bypassed Ron and he started to chew out the other two clerks. which unfortunately you can't put that on a plaque, but that is the nature of the man. Very dependable, constant, dependable.
And apparently
Not-
civil.
Yes, yep. Not overbearing, humble in a good way.
Yeah, he was a gentleman in every sense of the
A
word.
gentleman. Yes,
Yep.
yes.
So that's all I have this evening on this matter, obviously, and I guess we'll wait it out a little bit longer before I talk to Janet and let things with that family get kind of back to normal a little bit, as much as they can be, and then we'll try to have a conversation with her and see how we can make a dedication to his presence and his contributions to the town.
All right.
All right. Well, enjoy Florida, John.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm taking my son and my wife down to Florida to see my parents. So first trip for my son on a plane. So that's going to be fun.
Just,
You need a
slip him a few
you need-
Benadryl. All you need to do.
Actually, that's exactly what my wife's coworker told her to do, is to just slip a few Benadryl in his milk.
That's what you do.
Good to go. Yeah.
Now,
I
do you
guess
need
I'll
someone to
work.
carry your bags, John? Or
Do you want to come, Dan? Do you want to do some meeting minutes for me?
I will do some meeting minutes, and I think that there's probably nothing that your family would want to see more than me in a Hawaiian shirt on the beach with a little drink with the umbrella in it sitting right there. Hey, how's it going?
So what
Sorry.
what part of Florida?
So my parents live outside of Tampa, so I'll be heading down there. So it's supposed to be 85 and sunny. So
You can take the little one to the, well, actually, he's probably too young for that, but the Salvador Dali Museum down there.
yeah, my
In,
parents are
St.
actually just there. Yeah.
It's in St.
Mhm.
Pete.
Mhm.
The best one in North America,
Yeah.
I think, or the biggest, certainly the biggest collection in North
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just want to make sure before we leave tonight that two people do make motions to adjourn, just so I can. The minutes don't feel right if I don't have that.
You need
At the
closure,
bottom.
Dan. You need closure. I'll give you closure.
I need
Does
closure.
it have to be grammatically correct?
No, you can make a motion to adjourn in grammatically incorrect English if you wish.
I'll make the motion to adjourn, Dan, at 8:23 p.m. How's that?
She even put a time in there. Wow.
Wow, that's a deluxe adjournment there. Thank you. I'll second that.
All right. We have a motion.
All right.
Yeah.
All in favor, raise your hand or say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Have a good
Good night.
night.